Hello and welcome to Workplace Shift. I'm Nicolette DeVidar, your host. Skill gap and new learning are the buzzwords of the new year, buzzing us right into 2019. Are you a lifelong learner? How do you feel about that? In 2019, it would be the right time to become one if you've been reluctant so far to learning new skills and diving into new experiences. Human-machine collaboration is progressing fast, as is a digitized world. This requires all of us to learn different skills no matter what life stage you're in. A digital world requires digital citizens. Digitization affects every sector and aspect of our lives, whether this is banking, making deposits into accounts, to finding the right transportation and staying mobile at the time you need to. While the young people easily adapt, many of the older generations feel left behind, and the divide in the workforce is increasing by the day. Since nowadays all organizations are practically tech organizations, digital dexterity and digital literacy are no longer specialty skills reserved for a few, but basics to function, contribute, co-create, and participate in our society, and certainly in your organization or company. So how can we adapt and bring our skills up to speed? How do we learn in the digital age? How do we acquire digital dexterity? And is it learning for everyone? This is what I'll talk about with my guest, Dr. Badrul Khan, the man who coined the term e-learning back in 1995. Dr. Khan is a renowned author of 12 books, with one of them having been translated into 23 languages around the globe. He was awarded Hall of Fame in 2015 by the US Distance Learning Association, and the NATO eLearning Forum called him the founder of modern e-learning. He's a global speaker on pioneering the new frontier of digital learning and champions to move education from bricks and mortar to virtual. Welcome at Workplace Shift.
Thank you
Badrul.
so much, Nicolette, for inviting me. It's my pleasure to be with your show.
Excellent.
Very good.
The World Economic Forum forecasted that by 2020, about 75 million jobs will be lost due to automation. They also say that at the same time, there's probably 130 million jobs newly created. However, those are jobs that today, they neither exist in title, in function, or in any other way we can refer to. So that means an awful lot of people will need to be retrained and upskilled. And while in the old days one would go to university or colleges, get your skills and then apply them to real life work, with the digital age there really is no time for that, because technology comes in faster than anyone can adapt, and we don't really have all the years to learn new skills. So how do we learn in the digital age?
Well, thank you for a nice introduction. I just wanted to say that in 1995, I has given the credit of coining the phrase web-based instruction, which become or paved way the new field of e-learning. Mm-hmm. Those days when I was talking about web-based instruction, people were thinking, what is it? Is it going to stay? Or is it going to affect our population? Mm-hmm. Well, that was 1995 when I published the book Web-Based Instruction in 1996. Then people started to still questioning, is there a difference between learning online versus the face-to-face traditional classes, courses? I told them, I said, listen, the thing of it is like web-based instruction, or nowadays we call e-learning, is such a thing, is not competing with traditional classrooms. It's complementing. See, there is something called blended learning. So online education or e-learning, e means electronic, and any electronic devices that you use, that could be radio, television, computer, your cell phone, anything digital using for learning purposes are known as e-learning programs. So what do you have? Those days people are thinking, we are so used to going into traditional classroom in corporate world. You have basically the people who are used to go to training session, face-to-face traditional training session. Now we are professing e-learning, means that your instructor, your trainer may not have to be present in front of you. They can be anywhere in the world, remote areas. Now, let me tell you, there's new ideas, new innovations, new technologies as they emerge. And in the workplace and industry, it requires everyone to adapt to this new transition. So the new transition, having e-learning, having learning with the technology, and exploring it to new horizon, it becomes a new requirement for our citizens. So our citizens are basically are newer citizens, even though same physically we are the same, but we have shifted our focus from traditional way of learning, formal way of learning, to informal, open, flexible learning environment through electronic devices.
Okay, so when you say e-learning is really a combination of all the different electronic forms of learning. We did come up with a slide on showing some trends in e-learning for 2019. Maybe we can pull this up on the screen for a moment, which talks about all the new trends that are coming up in 2019. So some of them are adaptive learning, which means going to the next level, microlearning, artificial intelligence and learner assistant, gamification, which is definitely a big one, game-based learning, which has proven to be very effective, augmented reality, virtual reality, what else did they list? Video-based learning, social learning, and content curation. So would you say all of those elements have to be combined into effective e-learning, or do we understand e-learning really more as you take a course with some skills or some knowledge and put that into an online format?
Well, it depends on, see, we in our field something called Bloom's taxonomy, which talks about the low cognitive level learning to high cognitive level of learning. Low cognitive level could be knowledge, and it goes like knowledge, comprehension, analysis, and then evaluation. So every subject, every discipline, you have any of the courses or any of the topic has some parts low cognitive level, some parts very high cognitive level. So for each one of these cognitive level, you have instructional strategies that how you're going to teach. Then you look into the devices. For example, if you want to teach something emotional, something action learning, you may want to use video parts of e-learning. If you wanted to, for example, would you use e-learning for a medical students to learn their courses? Well, you can, but it has to be blended. So if I am a medical student and a patient will, like me, who has gone through a lot of surgery, that I should be operated by a professional medical doctor. So in the medical school, you see that if a medical student would like to learn about the knee surgery, so he or she can watch a live video conferencing of a famous surgeon from somewhere in the world explaining. So they can look at the video and section by section, they can see it. But when they want to actually do the surgery on a patient, they have to be in the operating table, they have to touch the blood, talk to the patient. It's more like psychomotor skill. So for that particular reason, when you're combining all the game-based or other different devices with different types of programs that you talked about, they have to be combined based on what exactly you're teaching. So in this case, in the medical course, that you can use e-learning for demonstration purposes with a video, but for actually doing it, they have to touch the blood, do it with the patients. That will be, in Harvard, they call it flipped classroom.
Yes,
was
but
the video?
That's the medical. That's the medical section, and that's really sort of one specific field. We've been talking about the digital world at the beginning. So let me ask you: is digital learning for everyone?
Yes, it is for everyone, but you have to make sure a field called instructional design, where you look into target audience, the types of content you're going to be teaching, and also the context where. So if you have like adult learner, will they able to learn? Definitely, but you have to understand new learners
Yeah.
are something new to everyone. It's like we are all humans. Things are coming and it's changing. If a high school student these days will learn more than someone is an adult or senior citizens, so they have not have these opportunities when they were in high school. So the generation, there is a gap constantly happening between the people who have access to these
Yes.
technologies versus who has not to begin with. But to be citizens in the digital world, you have to get used to the level is possible for you.
So what makes a digital citizen?
Digital citizen would be living in this new era of digital world. And
Do we need critical skills that everybody must
You
have?
must. That's
what are those?
Well, the critical skill would be if you are always teaching everything online, you have to.
But what
decide.
does that mean for the user? So we've been talking about what does that mean for teaching it online, but what does that mean for a user? So if you're a citizen and you live in a digitized world, what skills do you have to have in order to function in that world?
Well, first of all, you have to understand the paradigm shift. The way they used to learn in front of a professor or teacher in a classroom, it will be totally changed in a virtual environment. So you need to be self-disciplined because you have to participate in these online discussions. You have to do your homework and you don't see anyone. So you're on the cloud. You feel lonely, you feel isolated. But whoever designing these courses, they have to think about, if I'm offering a course from George Washington University where I was a professor there, one of my students visiting someplace in Saudi Arabia. So that means I don't know whether she was in a desert or somewhere, so I have to consider that I have to provide all support services and have to think about the person is not with me, somewhere else, remote learners. So you have to think of their issues, which I have created a framework that talks about a learner.
Yeah, we can talk about that in the second segment
Yes.
because we're almost out of time for the first segment. So as we come back in the second segment, we'll talk about more about the critical skills, how to get them, and where to get them when we come back. Welcome back to Workplace Shift. I'm Nicolette DeVidar. Certain digital skills are must-have skills for everyone to participate in the new brave world we're living in. Whether you're already retired and enjoying the fruits of your labor, or if you're in the middle of your prime time at work, there are certain skills that are must-have basics that we all need. What are those and how do we get them? This is what I'll talk about with Dr. Badrul Khan, the founder of Modern eLearning, in the second half of the show. Badrul, you have developed a comprehensive approach to modern e-learning. What are the key pillars of that model?
Well, thank you again for having me back on the show. First of all, in the digital world, you see it's a different than traditional way of learning, teaching, and getting information. So I was thinking about in the digital world, how would one learn? What skill they would need? So I did the research since 1995, and I got a lot of issues that need to be considered for creating a learning or training environment for the citizens of the digital world. Having said that, if I may, you see in the flexible learning book here, you see I have learned that there are so many issues. So one of the issues they show me that where am I going to get my library? If you send a citizen to Amazon forest, nearer to no civilization, but you still want to teach them through electronic media or e-learning, what would they require? So I started thinking about the first thing they need, pedagogy. Pedagogy means the way we learn and teach, the techniques. So for online method, do you have to have the skill, the same skill?
Okay, I'm going to interject here one question because we talk about how do we learn? But if you really look in the digital world, so we learn mostly on the job. We don't have the time to take in a lot of theory. What the digital world really makes digital is that you work through the experience you do, you work on the job, you do things you've never done before, you simply dive in. So there must be a way of constructing learning in a way that you change constantly with the new technologies that are coming onto the market or being in use. How can you integrate that in those courses under your model?
Yeah, sure, you can. So like I said, in the pedagogy, you need to think about these learners are not with you. They're in remote site. What are the learning pedagogy? What are the style, instructional strategies, techniques you should use? So that is pedagogy. And these are the questions people are asking me. If you want to teach me, this is what we need. Then technology. The technology deals with your technology such as hardware, software, and infrastructure. So you have to know.
So it needs to be constantly updated.
Or you need to constantly update it for what kind of software they're using.
Correct.
And also infrastructure.
Yeah.
You either have 4G connectivity or 3G connectivity, or someone is still using dial-up, so this will be slower. So you have to constantly focusing on the technology innovations. And the next thing is that you have the next thing, interface design. So interface design means in the face-to-face you see me, I see you, I teach you, whatever I teach the content. But online, they see only the screen. So
and
how you design is important.
Is there a standard that you can develop sort of the same or similar interface for clients basically around the world, or do you have to differentiate to different countries?
First of all, like thumbs up sign is considered way to go in the United States. In Bangladesh, when I used to be a cricket player, I used to play cricket, there if somebody bowled me out, it means I'm out of the game, they would give me thumbs up just as a derogatory term that you didn't do that good. So that's a cross-cultural communication.
Yes.
So interface design,
Yes.
if you put a thumbs up, if someone asks a question and he answered it right, you give a thumbs up. But if he feels that thumbs up means differently, he may not like it. So you do need to think about interface design, universal interface design. You have to do. All the corporations have their companies, branches all about the world. They have to think about the worker, their culture, their cross-cultural communication.
So you need to know your audience.
Know the audience very well.
That's right.
And then next you have like management. The management means that in the face-to-face traditional training culture, you come and bring your overhead transparencies or projecting stuff and your books and notes. But online, you are somewhere else. They don't know where you are. So you need to.
So you could be at Starbucks. And
you
do
could
classes,
be Starbucks, and so you
courses.
need to make sure that
That's
you
right.
maintain. If you give them a link or visit the links for badrulkhan.com, and badrulkhan.com no longer exists, and if you got a dead link, they wouldn't like it. So you as a professor, instructor, trainer, or corporate trainer, you need to constantly check about all the links. Things are changing, things are moving.
Yeah.
Then you have evaluation. So when you're teaching face-to-face, you see your students or your trainees or employees. They understand what you're saying and they are happy. But online, you don't see them. So that's why the best way to do it in here is, especially in the evaluation, you need to make sure the content that you are teaching, they are getting it, and also content that students are learning. So evaluation of learners and evaluation of who designed this thing also factor. Resource support. Well, in face-to-face classes, you come to a classroom or your training center. If TV doesn't work, you go to the maintenance or mechanics, they help you. But online, you need resource support.
Yes.
So any organization, from corporate to government to academic settings, they must employ a resource support. Means technical support, sometimes counseling support, like meaning that people get so upset. So you can counsel them. So you need to invest, because these are the areas that you're providing support for the meaningful integration of the learning for the digital learner. You don't expect people to just learn if you didn't do your homework. Next thing is ethical consideration. Ethical consideration is like cross-cultural communication, legal aspects of it, and the time zones. For example, if I am in the United States, we have 6 time zones. And if I'm teaching a course from here in 8 in the morning, it probably will be 3 or 4 in the morning in Hawaii. So they're not going to synchronously live, they will discuss with you.
Yeah, but that would only mean for classes or courses that you teach that are sort of like live. But I think one of the biggest advantages is in the digital age, as you upskill your workforce, that everyone can customize the classes to their own. They can basically learn at their own pace. So you can learn at your own pace. You can focus on your progress sort of on your own way. You can personalize the content. How can you make sure that the content is personalized and customized for each and every person, whether that's in a corporate setting or whether this is in a student setting or a classroom setting?
Well, first of all, you think about there are two things. One asynchronous and another synchronous. Synchronous live. That one you live chat, discussion. But mostly it's asynchronous. So they can advance on their own pace with their own schedule. So you have to make each of these learning module, I call it snippets of learning. In fact, I'm writing a book called Learning Snippets. So snippets learning is a small micro learning where you let the students, let the learners, let the employees to adapt to that learning environment with their own comfort zones and scalability, and also their comfort, meaning their schedule. So think of it, if you think the digital world is a big paradigm shift from the traditional way we do our business, then you should think about who are the learners, who are the recipients, who are your customers. Their life changes and you have to adapt to accommodate their lifestyle.
Okay, so that's all like very from the teaching educational side. What does that mean if you're an older person, for example, and you want to deposit a cash into, let's say, your grandchild's bank account, and as you probably know, or some of you know, or some don't know, but since last September, there is actually a new law where you can no longer deposit cash into accounts that don't have your name on it. So a lot of the older people who are not used to digital technology, etc., they really kind of stuck in the dry. They were told the only way to get money to their grandkids, for example, is if you use Zelle or any other online application. So looking into this, how can we upskill or train the workforce or even citizens that are multi-generational on all ends of the spectrum and bring them up to speed? What can communities do and what can governments do, and what would courses look like in a nutshell?
Well, first of all, they have to be motivated because there is a shifting of the way we do our business. So they have to understand the paradigm shift, which will allow them to do the business in the new world.
Yeah, but they don't care about the paradigm shift. They want to know, how do I get the money that I have and I want to put this into my grandkids' account? How do I get it in?
Yeah, so first, once they understand the new system requires that, so you can develop training that matches their requirement, like snippets of training, show them this is how you do it, and also security. They have to feel very secure with the transaction. So in the system, you have to teach them how you protect your password, how you secure your transactions, and you have to make sure the confirmation of the transaction happen. So that's, and also, there are a lot of people out there can hack, and especially to adult population. So we need to make sure first teach them, you feel comfortable doing this, but make sure your things are doing right. Technology is a tool. You can use it any way you want, but you need to get enough training to do that business.
So do we agree that some of the digital skills, and they're non-technical and technical skills, but some of the major requirements are that people are comfortable in utilizing apps. They have to be comfortable in understanding symbol language, because most of the things is really just by symbol and touch screen, etc. What other skills are there that people really need to have?
Well, first of all, they have to be comfortable with using technology, meaning that, so also it's a lot of typing, and for that particular reason, they make sure they type it right, they double check it, And sometimes when I'm posting even into social media, I try to type it in Notepad, make sure what I wrote, and then I post it on
Online.
Facebook. So it's all about making you comfortable and
Yep.
be secure what you do in online. Know that your things is globally available.
That sounds good, and this is a great ending to our show. That's it for today. Brush up on new skills as you go along, and I would say do yourself a favor as you go into the new year. Make sure you learn at least one new skill per quarter to stay up to date with what's going on. You can look up the new skills or where you can get new digital skills on our webpage, www.workplace.SHIFT.us. Thanks for watching. See you next time.